Hello, everyone. My name is James Healy, and I'm an admissions and student recruitment officer based in the STEM faculty. Thank you for joining this on this webinar, which is based around the three E3 postgraduate programs at Trinity College Dublin. This event will highlight these programs, these interdisciplinary courses that share a focus on planning and developing new approaches to creating a more sustainable future. It will feature the following MSc programs: the MSc in Statistics and Sustainability, the MSc in Smart and Sustainable Cities, and the MSc in Climate Adaptation Engineering. We'll take you through the courses and show you the skills and experiences our programs provide. We will talk about how we can help prepare you for your chosen career and some of the different opportunities that studying at Trinity provides. Firstly, I'd like to introduce our panel today. We are very fortunate to have with us Professor Arthur White, the Course Director for MSc in Statistics and Sustainability, Dr. Philip Lawton, the Course Director for MSc Smart and Sustainable Cities, and Dr. John Gallagher from the MSc in Climate Adaptation Engineering. Also, we have Pauline Marcillo with us, who is a current student on the MSc Smart and Sustainable Cities, and she can give us a unique student's perspective on what it's like to study a master's with Trinity and on an E3 master's program. However, before we start discussing our programs, I'd like to explain a little bit about what the E3 initiative is. You'll be kind of hearing this phrase mentioned a lot today, and Trinity has undertaken this initiative to help mitigate many of the environmental and societal changes we face today. These challenges will require a new interdisciplinary focus across the STEM subject areas. And as a result, Trinity is undertaking a project to expand education and research across the schools of engineering, natural science, and computer science and statistics. This expansion of the three schools has been implemented as a joint initiative referred to as Engineering, Environment, and Emerging Technologies, or E3. As part of this initiative, we will increase the number of STEM students within Trinity by over 1/3 in 10 years. We will build and have pretty much built a new multidisciplinary learning foundry for the delivery of research and teaching, and develop new programs to incorporate these ideas into our teaching and provide an education to new graduates who will then go on to plan and develop a more sustainable and equitable future. Or put very simply, balanced solutions for a better world. As you can see on screen here now, this is the E3 Learning Foundry, and it's exclusively for use in teaching and research. There are kind of teaching areas and importantly labs and maker spaces that will be available for student projects designed specifically to support its interdisciplinary research and teaching. The building is nearing completion and should be on track to open this spring. We hope students will begin to make use of the building shortly after this. It will be definitely available for students that start in September 2025. As I mentioned before, we have developed new programs as part of the E3 initiative. These three programs that we are discussing today are based in the different schools across the E3 initiative. However, they incorporate teaching and experience from across those three schools to prepare students for a workforce that will be increasingly focused on sustainability. Hopefully, that has introduced you to our new project to you. And I'm going to hand you over now to Professor Arthur White to talk to you about the MSc in Statistics and Sustainability.
Great, thanks, James. So my name is Arthur. It's a pleasure to talk to you about this MSc in Statistics and Sustainability, which is now in its second year of running, and we're currently recruiting students for next year for the third year of the program. So if I just tell you a little bit about the program, it's really unique, combining two different elements together, which is the statistics component and then the sustainability component. So the kind of key eligibility criteria are that we're looking for students who have a strong academic background and they've got a 2-1 or higher undergraduate degree. We also have criteria that because it's a statistics MSc, it's quite a numerate. We need numerate students, but at the same time as that, we're willing to consider students from quite a variety of backgrounds. But the sort of key eligibility we need are about a year of university level mathematics, so at least kind of 1 year of a program. So students really need to know something about calculus, about linear algebra, and something about probability and statistics as well as that. So and beyond that, any skills that they have that are relevant to the program, we'll take into consideration sort of on an individual basis. So the kind of key core elements are there'll be a variety of statistics modules that students will take, starting with the foundations of statistics module in the first semester. That will make sure that every student has a really strong grounding in all the kind of key elements of statistics. Starting really, as the name suggests, is from a kind of philosophical or foundational basis. And then beyond that, then they can start to do, they'll also be doing more advanced modules and things like different kinds of linear models across two methods, as well as more advanced kind of machine learning kind of advanced analytics modules as well. And then complementing those skills in statistics, they'll be learning other skills around sustainability, around kind of geographic information systems is a very popular module. We've got a specific module just for these students. Also things like a sustainable green organization, which kind of look at the kind of key inputs involved in cooperating together and working together in order to maintain and ensure that organizations have the right kind of skills in place to make sure that they're sustainable moving forwards. Then beyond this, then we offer quite a lot of different electives, especially from on the sustainability side, where students can cover things like they can do more advanced geographic information system skills. They can look at things like air pollution, global environmental change, and many more. We have quite a lot of different options for students to select. So we're really confident. It's still quite an early stage of the program, but we're quite confident that there's quite a lot of career opportunities for students here. One, because there's always a need in the workforce for students who have strong numeracy skills, but we also provide other elements, opportunities for students to develop here in terms of knowledge about, quite a lot of other important areas around sustainability and a lot of other kind of key skills, but also kind of really important kind of key interpersonal skills, interdisciplinary skills, things like communication, collaboration, and skills of that nature as well. Thanks. So I guess in terms of the statistics and sustainability program, I mean, fundamentally, it's a multidisciplinary program. You'll be taking on by the end of the year, the students who graduate from this program, they have knowledge of advanced modeling skills. Some of these pictures here kind of illustrate these things. So modeling different kinds of data outputs, different kinds of types of models is the sort of first picture here. And then also different kinds of advanced techniques. So things like kind of stochastic computational statistical techniques, things like Markov chain Monte Carlo and things of those nature. And also a variety of different sort of application areas. So things from biostatistics and other disciplinary areas as well. And really, I suppose I would consider as a statistician, there's a range of things that we can do here, covering, exploratory data analysis. So if you've got a really big, messy data set, maybe you're looking for some kind of an insight. It's a first exploration of what you're doing, to kind of very formal advanced modeling methods when you've got a kind of clear idea about what it is that you're trying to achieve and what your research objective is, and looking at those things from your data. And also, as I suppose, as I just mentioned, there's also a very strong computational element. So, a lot of modern computational techniques, they require quite strong programming skills, and all students who are taking this program will gain a lot of skills, particularly in R, but also in Python and in geographic information systems. So there'll be a kind of complementary programming and computational element of this that will really help students to develop their statistical capabilities. And I think I'll talk more about sustainability maybe on the next slide. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, so well, I guess we could talk about the program very generally, but I suppose in terms of sustainability too, you're covering lots of different programs, so you get a real sense of different perspectives on sustainability. Part of the reason why we're doing this is because it's part of this E3 initiative that James just mentioned. So it's kind of inherently the whole, all of the programs and all the kind of different modules that all work together are very much taken from the point of view of like a kind of interdisciplinary vision for the future of how we all work together. So that sense of not only understanding, what you can do, but also getting a sense of it's very important that you understand how others work and think and the skills that they have and how you can all cooperate and work together. In terms of the program itself, what to expect when you're taking the program, there's a variety of different teaching formats available to students. Some programs will be mainly in person, some programs will be completely online and dedicated online. It's a sort of an 80-20 split between those two things, with majority in person, but with some flexibility for students to take some material online. And the same, some of the assessment will be coursework and kind of continuous assessment. So you'll be building up your kind of your marks as you go through the year, and then some of it will also be in-person exam at the end of the semester as well. There's also quite a lot of opportunities for independent work. So we have a dedicated group project module. Other modules will have group work assessment and continuous assessment. And also you'll be doing a dissertation where you'll be supervised one-on-one by a member of the many members of the statistics discipline, but also potentially another member of this the School of Computer Science and Statistics. And you'll be also developing your skills, working on a specific individual project, and that's over the course of the whole year that you'll be taking that. So in terms of the core modules that will be taken, foundation statistics, advanced linear models, as geographic information systems, as well as those, then there are many optional modules that you can take. I mean, some of the statistical modules you can do will cover things like time series, data analytics, multivariate analysis, and things like that. And I'd really encourage students to look online and see, because in terms of sustainability topics that are available, it's really broad. There's a real range of things that are on offer here, and from different schools. It's a wealth of different information that's available to you as a student. It's a very exciting program. And complementary to that as well, in the first module, you'll take a dedicated research skills module that will sort of prepare you for the kind of research you'll be doing for your dissertation, but also sort of, taking a step back and thinking about what kind of skills you require when you do research, in terms of, independent research, thinking about the problem, also doing things like systematically reviewing literature, making sure that your kind of research goals are sort of framed in the appropriate context for the kind of research that others have already done. To go back to recruitment a little bit, applicants will have a first class or upper second class honors undergraduate degree. We're really interested in welcoming to students from different programs and different backgrounds. And, so we see some students who have, either a statistics background or a mathematics background with a lot of statistics in there. But, we also have students who've been really successful from fields like ecology, from engineering, from finance. So we consider quite a lot of different students from different backgrounds. If you have any questions around your suitability for the program, please just get in contact with me and get in touch with me. We'll really take lots of different things into consideration. Really what you need to demonstrate in your application is that, you're passionate about statistics and also about the broader aims of sustainability, that you have, a working knowledge of some kind of probability statistics. You have some sort of sense of what you're letting yourself in for, and that, ideally maybe that you have some sort of background programming skills as well, or some sort of experience with statistical software. Primarily a lot of the students will be demonstrating this through, their university career, getting good marks in these modules, in modules dedicated to statistics and related sort of disciplines areas. But, if you have relevant work experience, if you've done internships, if you've been you have work experience where you've done a lot of data analysis, a lot of things of that nature, please make sure to highlight that and include that in your submission, and we'll definitely take that on board. So, in terms of opportunities, it's because we're quite new program, it's kind of hard to give specific examples just yet, but we have quite a strong belief and expectation that the graduate students that we do produce here will go on to have very successful careers. And we're very mindful that the skills that we're going to give them in this MSc program will significantly boost their future career opportunities. We hope that the goal is that the students will become, be flexible, adaptable, they'll identify creative solutions, they'll be able to work with others. I think the key thing really, I suppose, for me, in terms of my own research, when I collaborate with others, which I do quite a lot, is you're always trying to adapt what you're doing to be focused and tailored on the specific goal of your collaborator, and you can only really do that if you have a good understanding of the problem and of what your collaborator is trying to do. So there's a big emphasis in the modules about kind of understanding the context around the problem, as well as just the technical skills needed to directly apply the problem to provide a model or an algorithm to a particular problem or solution. So when we were designing the program, we did survey different industry leaders and companies, and it was very clear to us from the survey that the kinds of skills that we provide in this master's program are in high demand in the industry, and we would expect that to continue for the foreseeable future.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for that, Arthur. Now we're going to move on to Dr. Philip Lawton, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the MSc in
Thanks very
Smart
much.
and Sustainable
Hello,
Cities.
everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So I'm going to talk through our MSc in Smart and Sustainable Cities. We're currently in our fourth intake of students. And I suppose if I was to try and summarize what we're trying to do, we're really, the idea of the smart city, it's been around now for a few years, but, we see smart city ideas kind of emerge in different parts of the world over the last number of decades, and it has become embedded within planning, within discourse, within debates about improving city life. But fundamentally, we're about two things. So we're smart and sustainable cities. And so the ultimate aim really is to make cities that are better for people, that are better environments for people to live within. And for us, the sustainability element of this is crucial. And so a sustainable outcome, whether it be kind of more hands-on kind of environmental sustainability elements, are ultimately focused on providing a better social environment. And so the interdisciplinary element for us is really crucial in terms of understanding how these two elements come together. And so for this reason, we bring together a number of different elements. So for example, students take, and I'll go through some of the modules in a few minutes' time, but in essence, really what we're trying to do is we are using, for example, tools from urban planning, from urban geography, and these related fields in order to understand the histories and current ideas of how we develop more smart and sustainable cities. And so that is kind of a key element. And so one of the things I'm sort of trying to really put across here is that in our interdisciplinary approach, that we take in students from a vast variety of backgrounds. And so your suitability for the program is, we're very flexible in terms of the types of students that we encourage and that we take on to the program. And so on the one hand, people might come in with this sort of skill set that's more suitable to the kind of social science side of things, such as that coming from urban geography, for example, urban sociology, and so on, and these sorts of backgrounds. Or people might be kind of from a background which is related to engineering and computer science, for example. And so we reach into these faculties in order to understand smart technologies and sustainable policies as well. Or you could come from a more sort of scientific background, a kind of a natural sciences background. And so we go into these areas in order to understand the relationship between, for example, nature-based solutions and cities, which have become popular in recent years. And so if you're kind of sitting there and you're wondering, are you suitable to this program? If I was to list out, we're now in our fourth intake, and if I was to list out the backgrounds of the students, I think I'd be here for a good few minutes, because people are coming from anything from marketing to zoology to architecture to, as I mentioned earlier on, urban geography to planning to computer science to engineering and so on. And so we really have a vast array of kind of backgrounds. And one of the things this does is it makes for a really interesting master's, because the students are coming from a variety of backgrounds in terms of their discipline and from a variety of places across the world. The conversations that the students have within various different modules make for very productive outcomes in terms of whether it be a group project or whether it be a more kind of just class-based discussion. You see these kind of different disciplinary backgrounds really coming out, and they really help students to frame what it is that they're doing for example, in terms of their dissertation as well. And so I might give you a little bit more detail in terms of some of the module options and opportunities that you would have within this master's now. So the way in which we divide this up is we have a number of core modules. And so I suppose that's the kind of, if we think of it a kind of a hub and spoke kind of approach. And so we have a number of core modules that people can use, or that students do take. So for example, the urban governance module, there's the urban sustainability module, approaches in smart and sustainable cities, a GIS module, and then an introduction to machine learning module as well. And these are spread over the year. Also, what should be included there is a field trip, but I'll come back to that in a few minutes' time. But in essence, really, and two modules I'm just going to pick out here for a second. So the urban governance module, that delves into kind of urban theory, coming from urban political science, for example, coming from urban sociology, also including urban planning texts as well. And so one of the things that we're trying to do here is to get students to understand some of the histories of urban theory and urban thought, which then helps them when they go on to their urban sustainability module, for example. And so in a way, what we're doing in that first module is kind of breaking things apart a little bit. And then under the guidance of Marcus Collier for urban sustainability, you're starting to put some of these things back together. And so we're very much about theory, but also praxis. And so trying to use theories in order to understand and to develop a set of skills in order to make cities better and better places for people to live in. In our core modules, we also have more technical approaches such as geographical information systems, for example, and then also machine learning. And so you're getting a broad base within those core modules. From that, then, you could also have the opportunity to choose from a number of different optional modules. And so within engineering, for example, students take transport policy. Then also within computer science, people take artificial intelligence. And then students also take environmental policies as well, which is in the School of Natural Sciences. Climate justice is another module that's also open to students as well. And so I think that there's a kind of a two-pronged approach here. And this is one of the things I try to talk students through at the beginning of the year, is that on the one hand, you can really hone your skills. And so if you come in with an interest that is more focused, let's say, for argument's sake, on engineering, you can take those modules that are within engineering, such as transport policy or energy policy as well as another option. And that allows you to hone those skills. But at the same time, you might decide that you're going to challenge yourself somewhat. And so you might take, for example, the environmental policies module or the climate justice module, because these essentially allow you to kind of open your mind to new ways of seeing the world or new ways of doing things. And that's fundamentally what we're about. By the time you've got to kind of early March, that's currently when our field trip is, you will have taken a vast majority of these modules, or you'll be halfway through some of them. And so the field trip, which in previous years and more than likely next year will be to Amsterdam, provides a kind of, in a way, a kind of a focal point of the year for me. It's a point where students can bring together their learnings from different modules in order to, and they choose it themselves, look at an example of smart and/or sustainable solutions in Amsterdam. Amsterdam is a city with a long history of approaches within planning and housing provision. It has a kind of an international reputation for these things. And so it's a kind of an archetype in terms of urbanism. And so it's a great place for students to draw from in terms of understanding best practices when it comes to both smart and sustainable approaches to cities. One thing I would say in this, and just in terms of planning, is that this is not included in terms of your fees, and students have to budget for this. And the trip comes in a total of about 500 euros or so. As I said, this is a really enjoyable part of the year. For me, it's a real kind of focal point of the year. Not only do students get to kind of engage in terms of kind of their learning, but it's also kind of a fun trip and an enjoyable experience. And it can really kind of, I suppose, a pinnacle in terms of the experience of the year. Around the same time, and it's something I'm currently organizing for the students, we have a company placement. And this really is an opportunity for students to get outside the classroom and to engage with a particular organization. And so some of the placements are within Arup, for example, RPS, an environmental company. Also, small organizations such as Smart Dublin, for example, which is a smart cities body linked to Dublin City Council, Dunleary, Rathdown County Council. These are local authorities or municipalities within Dublin, and to engage in some kind of hands-on work within the city. And so the city essentially becomes your place to try and use what you've learned in the classroom and to apply that. I choose the placements on the basis of people's particular skill sets. And so far, we've had a lot of success with these placements in terms of students really kind of getting to grips with some of the kind of key elements in smart and sustainable cities. One element that's not on that slide that I should highlight is that once these different elements are kind of complete in terms of your coursework, students also complete a 30 ECTS dissertation. And that, we start you thinking about that from the very first day that you come into class, but that predominantly takes place over the period of time from roughly April up until August when the submission is. In general, and I saw this was a question that was submitted, in general, within this master's, you choose your own topic. You're guided in terms of choosing that topic. Students come in sometimes with a very clear idea of what they want to do and pursue that from the very first day. Our students come in with an idea of what they want to do, and through taking other modules, they choose that they're going to do something very, very different. And that's one of the real advantages of this master's. On the one hand, you can pursue what you're really passionate about and interested in, or you can find that you're switching what you're interested in and you focus on that for your dissertation. Okay, so and finally, what I'll move on to, Ronan, thank you very much, is career options, which I'm sure many of you are thinking about. These are our graduates on the image there from a number of years ago. And some of our graduates, whether it be this group or last year's group or the year before's group, have gone on to work in, for example, smart cities, so in Smart Dublin itself. Looking at and essentially growing Smart Dublin and its approach in terms of what it does on the ground. Others have gone into national transport authorities, for example, and so drawn upon the skills that they would have picked up within engineering. A number of students have actually gone into banking and become sustainability advisors. So I think one of the things that's really quite striking is the growth of sustainability and the focus on sustainability. Then recently we had a graduate go with a sustainability focus into a new real estate company that has an explicit sustainability focus. Architecture, the student had an architecture background, came into our masters, and then used the kind of additional skills to get a new job recently within sustainable approaches to architecture. And then other students have gone on into, for example, placemaking. So pedestrianization, many of you will have seen an increased focus in terms of cycling infrastructure, for example, as well, which have become popularized. And so that's it from me. I know we're going to open up the floor to some questions in a few minutes' time, and I look forward to engaging with you or answering any questions that might come up. Thank you very much for your attention.
That's great, Phil. Thank you for that very informative information there. I'm going to move on now to Dr. John Gallagher from the Department of Civil, Structural and Environmental Engineering, who's going to talk to us about the MSc in Climate Adaptation Engineering.
Thanks, James, and good afternoon or good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. I suppose to follow on from Arthur and Philip, to give a context of this program for Climate Adaptation Engineering, it's the third program in this kind of suite of offerings that we have in E3 and the newest in that this is going to be its first year offered. Climate adaptation, what does it mean? I suppose we have to consider that climate change is impacting our global situation. It can have impacts at a local level, but we have to think about how we address that through regional and national policy and indeed international interventions as well. And so this project or this module or program comes through engineering led, but again, as our counterparts, we very much also embrace the skill sets and the knowledge that comes through natural science and computer science as well, because climate adaptation is not a singular disciplinary it doesn't offer a single disciplinary solution. So with that, if we consider that we have to address climate events and how they're impacting infrastructure, how we need to invest in interventions and to deliver more resilience within our systems, our services, and across sectors. This is not a new program to help fill that gap within organizations that perhaps their employees don't have that skill set and knowledge yet. So we are recognizing again a skill set that is perhaps limited within the current workforce in Ireland and indeed internationally. And this program aims to help develop those skills. So perhaps I'll continue as to give an insight into the program. So where we come from is recognizing that technical skills that engineers offer traditionally and the practical skills are really important for climate adaptation for all types of infrastructure. And but indeed, engineers need to understand natural systems. They need to be able to leverage data. So this program really is trying to integrate those with the approach of supporting climate adaptation initiatives. But again, when it comes to that, we are not trying to perhaps focus on upskilling engineers, because other forms of disciplines can come into this program as well and to hone their understanding of how engineers approach climate adaptation, and then work in parallel with climate-focused organizations, or indeed organizations that are leaning into this and expanding their teams to deliver solutions in this space. So therefore, this program is again offered to a range of disciplines from across STEM, but again, urban planning and architecture undergraduates who want to understand the engineering perspective and then work in those type of organizations. So with regards to developing those skills, one of the unique offerings of this program is that instead of a traditional master's project, we are looking at offering you an opportunity to work with industry. So I suppose in relation to Phil's approach to a student coming with an individual project, our approach would be that we recognize that industry have challenges at present, and you work on that project as your core summer exercise from May to August. But similar to our other programs as well, our academic year is split into 3 phases, in which our core modules would really introduce you to, and then in the second semester, expand your understanding of climate adaptation as the core focus and through an engineering lens. But then also introduce modules that you've heard about around introduction to machine learning, and also global environmental change, to contextualize those problems through, again, our natural science and computer science colleagues. But with these projects, we're looking at the idea of working towards and understanding different types of climate adaptation challenges that different sectors, that different organizations face. And in doing so, aligning the case studies within the modules that we focus on climate adaptation to those, so that as you work through both independent coursework and also group work exercises, predominantly within the second semester, that you start to understand how different disciplines, different specialists come together to work on these challenges. And then you can have the opportunity to work within an organization. It could be public sector, it could be private organizations who are simply recognizing climate adaptation as a matter of urgency, to instigate plans, to develop roadmaps, and to implement solutions, whether it be flooding or building resilience, etc. So there's a huge range of areas that this offers, but the fundamental core modules that we want to give you is to help you hone the skills that you can put into practice within that industry-led project. So if you just go to next slide, maybe to reflect upon some of those points, and we look forward to the questions that you might have around this program. As with all of the 3 programs, we recognize that there's a value of having the integration of our counterpart disciplines, me coming from an engineering, but recognizing the importance of understanding how data works and how data informs decision making, and the role of nature-based solutions and indeed the understanding of climate impacts to address these challenges. So that interdisciplinary approach is integrated within this program, as it indeed recognized within our counterpart programs as well. So there's one or two other points on this slide as well. I suppose, yes, thank you very much. Within this E3 program, what we want to do is provide, I suppose, increased opportunities for engagement between students in the discipline. So that's very much what we're trying to achieve as well. But what's most important to this program is the opportunity for our students and graduates is that they get a taste of what a role in climate adaptation and with a focus on engineering actually will be through these industry-led partnerships. It will first and foremost have an academic supervisor leading in terms of making sure that the outputs are accredited and associated with or you achieve the credits. But industry are coming with these challenges to us. And so you'll have the opportunity to engage with them at a very light touch within the first semester. Within the second semester, you get to hone the project that you want to deliver, but that aligns with their needs. And then in the third semester, you have the opportunity to perhaps visit their offices, collect the data, engage with the individuals within the organization to produce outputs that are not just academic in nature, but have a value to these sectors and can have impact. And what we foresee is that these relationships that you build with these partners will also offer you an opportunity for employment, whether it be in Ireland, but indeed you bring those skills back to your respective country if indeed you're an international student coming here for this course solely. But I hope that gives you an insight into this program. We are in its infancy compared to our counterparts, and these are kind of the ideas of modules, and we can share these slides after, kind of the mix and our introduction to climate change, and then our counterpart programs within our other disciplines, just in that first semester. In the second semester, on our next slide as well, we have kind of, again, the climate adaptation challenge module, which kind of starts to allow you to apply the skills you're developing in the first module, but also allow you to explore independently different opportunities and linking that to adaptation for planning. And the other modules then come across from other disciplines. And then in the third module as well, or third semester, excuse me, most importantly, is this industry project. We do offer the opportunity for you to come with your problem, but the alignment with industry can be more challenging. So we really want to try and ensure that your industry project is initiated with our industry partners, especially as we recognize a lot of our graduates are coming to Ireland and may not have that connection. But if you are in Ireland and you have that challenge recognized in that industry that has that challenge, we can refine that project and find a supervisor that can support you in that journey. So that's kind of the three phases of the project, the program that we're launching in September of this year. And I hope it kind of would develop someone from a broad STEM discipline, but give them the understanding of how engineers design and deliver solutions, so that no matter what sector you end up in engaging with engineers, you can guide them, you can ensure that you get the best value in delivering climate adaptation plans and climate adaptation initiatives. So I look forward to your questions and the discussion as we go forward. And back to you, James.
Thank you very much, Sean. That was great. I'm just going to just do a few more slides on some kind of administrative issues with the program. So just, I I appreciate that some of you may have already applied to us, but if you haven't, it's a fairly straightforward process. You apply to us directly. You just need to fill in a form on our website and upload some supporting documents like transcripts and academic references. For example, if your first language is in English, you may need to submit an English language certificate as well. Once we have that information, we can then review that and let you know the outcome of your application. The programs that we're discussed today are all still open for applications, and the deadline for applications is the 31st of July. We understand that coming to kind of study, particularly if you're coming from overseas, is a complex and kind of a challenging question. And we understand you'll have lots of questions about studying at Trinity. Who better to answer these questions than our current students? We run a talk to our student service where you can ask a current Trinity student a question and receive a response directly from them. It may be that you want to find out more about the programs they are studying on, student life in Dublin in general, or the kind of student supports that Trinity offers. At the beginning of the presentation, I spoke about how, as part of our new approach, the E3 initiative is providing students with new facilities and developing new programs. But in addition to that, we are also demonstrating our commitment to this initiative by offering a number of E3 scholarships to support students on programs in the 3 schools. These scholarships are available to all students on an E3 program. You need to submit an application on our website, and they're valued between 2,000 to 5,000 euros each, and usually they're deducted from your fees. More broadly in the university, we do offer a number of other scholarships as well, such as the EU Excellence Scholarship and the Global Excellence Scholarship. You can find out more information about all of these scholarships and all of the other scholarships we do offer throughout the university on our website as well. Hopefully, we've given an idea of what our programs can offer you and more broadly, what a Trinity education can offer. We'll now move over to the Q&A portion of the event. And if you have any questions either about what we've talked about in the presentation or anything else you'd like to ask us about, please go ahead and add them into the chat and we can respond. Okay, I'm just going to have a look now at the chat and see what questions are available. This might be a good opportunity to bring in Pauline. If we could ask maybe you to kind of share some of your kind of experiences and feedback on the program. I see there's a question that was pre-submitted about what do you consider to be the most rewarding part of studying on your program, and have you been involved in any particularly interesting projects or projects or courses?
Hi, so yes, I'm currently studying at a master in smart and sustainable cities. And so I remember a question, it's about what is the most rewarding part of your subject. And I would say that I come from a water engineering background. So for me, looking at the city more broadly, looking at not only the ecological part, but also the social part was very rewarding. And I think the other part of your question was what are the exciting modules that I've done. And yeah, I really like when we can focus on a topic that but in several cases, we have the opportunity to choose a specific topic in for example, urban governance. At the end of the module, we need to write an essay and we can pick a topic with the professor that interests us most. So that's nice to be able to focus on a subtopic that we are passionate about.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you for that. Just here, I can see, Arthur, I have a question here from somebody. They're interested in applying for the MSc in Statistics and Sustainability, and they come from a maths background, and I think you did go into kind of go into detail in your part of the presentation about the kind of maths background, the requirements for that. This person is asking about is experience of subjects like geography, biology, environmental science subjects required, or will a lack of that affect the optional modules they can take?
So it's a good question, and it's definitely something to be thinking about. It's not really a barrier so far. I mean, we'll have different students with different skill sets, and there are a lot of different modules for students to take, I think. So probably what I would say to a student is, of course, when you're picking, when you're deciding which elective modules to take, maybe do be careful about which ones you select and be strategic about which ones you pick based on your own skill sets and where your own interests are. But we certainly wouldn't penalize the students who we appreciate that it's a really interesting, really unique program and it's very multidisciplinary. So it's very, very difficult for a student to have expertise across all the different topics. So we would absolutely expect that, that students who come in, they don't necessarily need to have any particular specific expertise in any one of those areas, but it just because the other side of it is statistics, we have a little bit more of a focus on what the bare minimum requirements are. But so I suppose the short answer is no. We wouldn't penalise different candidates coming through if they don't quite have expertise in any one of those areas.
No, that's great. That's very helpful. I'll just kind of ask here, Philip, someone has asked if you can give a kind of some examples of the sorts of dissertations students complete as part of your program, and just maybe some that stood out to you as particularly interesting or kind of that exemplified the kind of the sort of what you're trying to kind of teach students on the course.
Yeah, so I suppose because I'm the program coordinator, I get to see some of them, which is really nice. And one thing I would say is that it's the breadth of different things that people do, like so one student, for example, last year using Berlin as a case study did a really, really nice project looking at some of the debates over at the moment, a lot of neighborhoods are being transformed for, better experience of pedestrians and cyclists. And there's a kind of a politics that has emerged around this. And it's quite well known in various different countries. But the student did a really nice job of trying to understand what was going on in those contexts. And it really suited their skill set as well. But one thing I would say there is that student, it's not like they came in on day one with a really strong kind of notion of what they were going to do. That project was built up over the period of the year, built up through kind of, their interests, but then doing different modules such as urban sustainability, for example, which would look in at these sorts of things. Then also their placement actually was focused on what I would label as placemaking. And then they went on to do that project and actually then went on to work in that area. That they were one of the students I indirectly highlighted earlier on. Um, Another project that stands out, and it's very much outside my area, I have to admit, it was from a student who had a background in engineering. I had the pleasure of reading this project, and it was on urban heat island effects, and that was really fascinating because there's a lot of focus at the moment, and I find it quite simplistic on urban density, and the density debates. Kind of they're on social media, they're kind of everywhere, and to some extent, or to a significant extent, we need denser cities for walkability reasons and so on, and wider issues around efficiency, for example. But actually, they really sort of highlighted the impacts, and strangely for me, on a city such as Dublin, which isn't often associated with overheating, but on kind of warmer days where you are actually having negative implications of density emerging from kind of excessive densification in certain places. And that was really interesting for me because, as I say, it certainly put me outside of my comfort zone when reading it, and it really kind of highlighted the importance of having this kind of interdisciplinary program. So those are two things that have really kind of stood out. Other people would do things on kind of urban social change, or other people have done stuff on kind of nature-based solutions, working with Marcus Collier, for example. And then, depending, some students have gone on to do kind of stuff that draws on machine learning, for example. Giovanni is kind of our lead on that, and we have one student this year who's going to be working on that sort of stuff. So really, there's a broad range of possibilities in terms of projects.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. I think that really did kind of answer, gave a very detailed answer to that question. I can see the question in the chat from Julian, who's asking about statistics and sustainability. The first part of the question is he's asking about, are there an introduction to OR and Python courses that we endorse, recommend? I think we may be able to answer that kind of maybe offline, kind of we might answer you directly on that one just as a sort of We might need to look into that a little bit. But for the second part of your question, yes, the syllabi of our courses are available online. Usually, if you look at the course page, there'll be kind of a link that says something like course details. That should take you through to where you can see a kind of a descriptor of the actual module. That's very useful if you're kind of not sure if you're interested in a program, or you're not sure your suitability for a program. It'll give you kind of a good idea of what is studied on the program. Also, it'll give you a good idea of how that module is assessed. Is it a kind of a module that's assessed through coursework, or through by exams, or through some other type of practical assessment? Someone's asking here about climate adaptation engineering is really interesting. To what extent do you have to come from an engineering background? Can non-engineering apply? John, would you be able to kind of answer that? I think you did cover that in your presentation.
Of course, but I can, I suppose, expand. So yes, of course, a non-engineer can apply. We have a range of different disciplines that have applied for this year, and actually very few are engineers. I think what this program aims to do is to allow a non-engineer to be exposed to what engineers, how they approach problems in perhaps a different way to our counterparts, and and yes, to some degree, how we would design and so on, but not to the same level perhaps of an undergraduate engineer. But what's really important is that we're more and more we're working in inter-transdisciplinary teams in organizations, and we speak different languages, not literally, but in some cases, but an engineering approach, how we approach a problem, how we address a problem, and so on. So really, what this program is about is we're still true to the approach that an engineer has to a problem, and you'll be exposed to that. But really, we're not looking to upskill engineers. If they are welcome, but really we want to expose our students to the engineering's lens of climate adaptation challenges. So that's really how I would describe it. It's definitely not something that a non-engineer should shy away from, but it is also skills that engineers need, because our transdisciplinary experience as undergraduates in engineering hasn't always had this level of exposure to natural and computer science. So yeah, welcome anyone considering it that isn't necessarily an engineer.
Yeah, what I would say as well is, if you are unsure, John or somebody on the E3 will be happy to talk to you and kind of give you more information on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Any of us are happy to engage with you.
I see another question here. Can I maybe address to Pauline? Somebody's just asked, as a student on the MSc Smart and Sustainable Cities, can you give us a kind of an idea of what your average week is like? Is it kind of how many lectures and practicals do you have to attend a week?
It changes really from week to week. But in general, you have some freedom to set your week. So maybe with some weeks it's 2 days of lecture per day. Some weeks you don't have, like, you only have lectures for 3 days or 2 days, and it's a bit more like half a day then. And some was always busier. It depends, but in general, you can really manage your time the way you want it. And there are a lot of I would say at the beginning, especially in semester one, there are a lot of more theoretical lectures and a lot of reading and writing. And now that we are starting the semester two, there is a field trip coming up. There is a placement, so it will be actually in the end it's really both. So that's what makes it really interesting.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you. That's very informative. I just kind of want to. Somebody's asked they're kind of asking a question about, do students need to have any particular skill set before beginning Smart and Sustainable Cities program? If you could kind of answer that, Phil.
Can you just repeat the question there? I didn't quite catch the first part of
Do
it.
students need to have any particular skill set before beginning the Smart and Sustainable Cities program?
No, none at all. I mean, it goes back to kind of when I first started my slides, is that the students are coming in from such a wide variety of backgrounds. And it's a good question, because in a way it speaks to when you're applying. I put a lot of weight on the personal statements, but I'm not putting it on the basis of I have previous skills within, kind of cities or within planning or anything like that. It's passion and interest that I'm looking for. It's that kind of what's driving you. Sometimes people might give me a kind of a personal story or a background, or it might be something that kind of piqued their interest in a newspaper more recently, or something to that effect. And so, I think if I'm honest, it's actually almost rare if we've got students with experience. So we've had a number of students with experience and backgrounds in architecture, for example. But it's not that they're at any particular advantage over other students. They've got a nice skill set that is focused on the city. But when it comes to thinking at this kind of macro level that we're trying to get students to do, that wide variety of backgrounds, I really mean it when I say anything, it's a kind of an anything goes, is that's one of the nice things. It does present challenges because, students say, for example, who don't have a background in computer science, we have an introduction to machine learning module and the students enjoy that. It's a challenging module. But for people to take some of the optional modules in computer science, there are prerequisites, for example. So, it's it's open in terms of kind of how you direct your learning in the year and the modules you choose. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'll just have a look and see now if there are any further questions come in. I would just say to anybody now, we're getting close to the end of the session. So if anybody has any questions they really want to ask, I think now is the time to drop them in the chat and we can respond to those for you. I've got a question here about the MSc in Climate Adaptation Engineering. They're asking, how will this program be taught? Will it be based on lectures or practical work? And does it involve a lot of environmental policy content? So I don't know if you can answer that, John.
Yeah, I've tried to be brief given time. So
Yeah.
we have quite a mix, I suppose. We're trying to integrate different types of teaching approaches, again, to develop different competencies. So it's not just about the content of climate adaptation. I think all Trinity programs now are embracing different pedagogies or teaching approaches. So it's not just about traditional lectures. There's definitely a stronger focus on experiential learning in that, and peer-to-peer approaches in terms of group work as well, independent learning, which offers something. And similar to Arthur as well, we do have small elements that are online as well to allow a bit of flexibility with one or two modules, which is kind of self-driven. His what was known as asynchronous or online content, recommended reading, which is actually from an engineering point very different to the way we traditionally approach it. So I would say that Trinity's programs in general, especially the E3, would offer quite a range of different. So I'm not just going to say it's the climate adaptation program that's in any way unique. I think we offer quite a range of approaches. And to your last point there, you mentioned, sorry, forgive me.
Does it involve a lot of environmental policy content?
We would contextualize climate adaptation with regards to policy, but we wouldn't be a policy-driven program. Our role in climate adaptation engineering is delivering on what the policy wants, or what the policy, or in some cases, maybe identifying what the policy needs. So it wouldn't be our first and foremost priority, but in the context, climate adaptation will be driven by policy.
I don't know that I think that makes perfect sense. I think that's very helpful. Okay, well, at the moment now I can see it is coming up to 2 o'clock, and I don't think there are any further questions in the chat. So I would just like to thank you all for attending today. I think we might, we can draw to a close there. What I would say is, if after the session you have any further questions or you have particular questions about your application or your own particular situation you didn't want to bring up publicly, just drop us an email, and either myself or one of the other panel members today will be happy to answer that for you. But again, thank you to everybody on the panel, and for anybody who's going to apply, and I hope to welcome you to the campus next September. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks, James.